Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Thrive Conversations, a monthly career webinar organized by Thrive in the US. My name is Bumi. I'm a lifestyle and career consultant for immigrant women, especially professional career women. And today we'll be discussing burnout, how to avoid burnout, tips for managing hectic work schedules. So, welcome on board. Just a quick background, Thrive Conversations is brought to you by Thrive in the US, a platform and a community for immigrant women who have migrated to the US, especially women in professional careers, to inspire them to move from survival to thriving in their careers. So when you boost your career, you're able to boost your life. So, like I mentioned, we'll be moving on with today's webinar, and this is a monthly webinar that is brought to you by Thrive in the US. All right, so today we'll be talking about burnout. What's burnout? Burnout is equivalent to exhaustion, and related to work, it's described as a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by excessive and prolonged stress. So, burnout results from excessive and prolonged stress, and it's a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion. So today we'll be focusing on burnout at work because people could also experience burnouts in other aspects of their lives. And when we talk about burnout, there's a whole topic entirely that talks about different stages of burnout and what each stage entails. But today I'll just be picking up on a few signs and symptoms that could be pointers to the fact that you're experiencing burnout at work. And these are shown on this slide: irritability, when you become more irritable or highly irritable, job dissatisfaction, lack of sleep, lack of social interaction, when you have lower productivity, anxiety, change in appetite, fatigue, or forgetfulness. All these are signs of burnout at work. Additional symptoms could involve headaches, palpitations, physical illness, resentfulness, which is quite interesting, increased alcohol or drug use, neglect, depression, and worst case scenario, suicide. Recently, we had about a case of suicide in a physician that was really all over social media. So any of these signs could be a pointer to the fact that you're experiencing burnout at work. And today we aim to look at what you can do, tips that I'll be sharing with you to avoid burnout at work so that you don't have to get to this stage where you're getting into depression or suicide. Today I'll be sharing 6 tips on what you can do to avoid burnout at work. The first tip I describe as define. So, define your role. What exactly is your role? What is your job description? What were you hired for? So be crystal clear in your mind about your job description and what is expected of you at work. Also, if you're new to a job, you could reach out to those who have been on the job to find out what exactly the job entails, because sometimes what is posted online might not be everything involved in the job. So you want to also find out what are the extra demands that are placed on this position. Do I need to travel? If so, for how long? Will it be local travel or international travel? Do I have to work overtime hours, or is it just my 8 to 4 or 9 to 5 and I'm done? Do I have to work on the weekends or holidays? You want to be clear on this. And all this will help you to be mentally prepared for what you're getting into. I know sometimes some of us are looking for jobs, especially immigrants in a new country. You just want to get any job, but it also helps if you're mentally prepared for what you're getting into. I remember the first job I did in the US as a sales associate at a clothing store. Um, at the time, I was just looking for any job, but I wasn't aware that I'll have to work super late into the night because that was the shift that was available. So I had to work until about 12 midnight, and going home at 1 a.m. in the middle of winter wasn't too interesting or fascinating. But because I was just looking for any and everything at that point, I didn't take that into consideration. And one last thing I want to mention about define is also being weary of the um, signature other duties as assigned. So sometimes you'll see in some job descriptions, there'll be a line that says you're also responsible for other duties as assigned. It might be a good idea to also clarify at the time you're getting into that job, or if you're already in the job, what are the other duties? What are examples of those duties? So you can determine whether it suits you or not when you're going into that job and be mentally prepared for it. Second tip that I'll be sharing has to do with negotiation. So when you're aware of what your job duties entail, you're also able to negotiate and work with your supervisory chain to make adjustments as needed. Sometimes um, employees think they just have to take everything that comes with the job, but sometimes you might be able to negotiate with your supervisor, for example, about alternate work schedules, even if it's just on some days or routinely. You want to find out what telecommute options are available for that job. Do you have an option to telework in which you don't have to drive to work every day, which could actually make you more productive? So work with your supervisor or your hiring manager to find out what negotiations can you make. Also, some jobs offer additional benefits like childcare subsidy or privileges to join a gym membership. Sometimes for grocery stores like Sam's Club or the other stores, you could have some subsidized fees to join those clubs or memberships. So find out the details of additional perks to your job while you're getting into it. Or if you're already in it, you might be surprised that there's some things you're not aware of. So negotiate and find ways to make the job suit you as much as possible. The next tip I'll be sharing today is about prioritizing. And we all know as professionals, we need to prioritize in our careers and in our jobs. Basically, you're determining the order for attending to tasks according to their relative importance. So, what do I need to do first thing in the morning, first day of the week, at the beginning of the month? What are my priorities for this position? And kind of making a list if that's what works for you, or have a schedule of how you plan to prioritize your work so that the ones that are more critical are completed as soon as possible and it wouldn't be a red flag on your record. There's this concept by Brian Tracy that talks about avoiding procrastination. So it's the eat that frog concept. Maybe some of you might have heard about that. And it basically talks about doing what you need to do as soon as possible. If it's first thing in the day, face the big task first and get it out of the way. Then even if you don't get to the items at the bottom of your list because they're not so critical for that point in time, you can always get to them another day or another period of time. So focusing on your priorities is very critical in order to avoid burnout at work. And I also advise that you work with purpose and you be strategic. So you have to strategically focus on what you need to do. Know the priorities for your position, know what your supervisor wants you to do, know what the teamwork and team approach is that helps you to achieve your goals. Tip number 4 talks about delegate, and that basically means assigning tasks to those who need to complete the task. And this might be more relevant to folks in supervisory positions. As a supervisor, you don't want to take all the tasks upon you to do them. You don't have to do everything. That's why you're in a leadership position. So you should be able to assign tasks to those who will assist you with achieving the team goals. Sometimes you're more capable of doing some tasks, but the quicker you train folks under you to be able to do those tasks, the more you're able to free up time for yourself to concentrate on the more critical items that are on your to-do list. So don't be afraid to delegate. Go ahead and delegate those duties. It doesn't necessarily mean you're pushing it entirely to people. You're still having an oversight of what's going on, but it frees up your time to focus on the critical items while others assist you in accomplishing the other team goals. And this is another critical way of avoiding burnout. You need to be realistic regarding your capabilities. Sometimes you're able to do some things. You might be an expert in IT and not one in communications, or vice versa. You might be a data guru, or you might not be. So at that point, you're looking for someone who is very good with data analysis to help you with what you need to do. And that will save you time in trying to figure out what you're not really good at. Another option is to actually go online and take a course that will help you to be able to develop that skill. The main goal here is to manage your time as effectively as possible. And the next tip talks about asking for help. So let's assume you're not in a supervisory position where you can delegate your tasks to people under you. You can still request assistance from your co-workers. Some of them might have the knowledge and skills that you don't have. And so when you ask for help, they're able to help you with that. Or sometimes you just need an extra hand. For example, even like residents, doctors, sometimes you're overwhelmed with work and you need additional help. You'll find out that you have colleagues that might be able and willing to assist you even with your work. You might be in a line where production is taking place, or you're working in a factory. You can always reach out and ask for help. The other thing you can also do is to work with your supervisor. You want to let your supervisor know if your workload is overwhelming, because sometimes some feel that you're not able to approach your supervisor to find out what you have going on. But you can actually sit down with your supervisor and make a list of items to let him or her know that, okay, these are the tasks I have going on at this time. And it also helps accountability. You let them know, okay, I have this 10 tasks on my plate, and I believe this 1, 2, 3 should be priority. What do you think? And so if your supervisor is aware of your workload, then they have different expectations of you. Unlike if they're not aware, they might just assume, oh, you have 2 things going on, and so it's no problem to add 2 additional items. But if they know you have a laundry list, those tasks could be delegated to someone else who's not as busy as you are, or they could work with you to prioritize, as we mentioned earlier in the tips. So don't be afraid to ask for help, request that assistance. It helps to avoid burnout at work. And the final tip I'll be sharing today, which is very, very critical, is the retreat. So you want to pay attention to the telltale signs of burnout that we mentioned at the beginning of this presentation. Things like lack of interest in work, being irritable, headaches, physical illness. You don't want to get to the point of depression or suicide. So pay attention to those telltale signs. Know when work is getting at you, and pay attention to it. So the next tip I'm giving is to take time off for self-care regularly. So you should plan your vacation time into your schedule. Most workplaces have sick leave, they have annual leave. You can take leave off of work. Some people bank up all their leave time, and for example, in my organization we have what we call use or lose. And if you find out at some point that you're getting to a point where you're losing your leave, which actually happens to people because they didn't make plans to use up their leave time, so schedule leave into your work. Think about it. Do I want to take 2 days off every quarter? Do I want to take 1 day off every other week? Of course, you don't want to make it that every Monday you're out of the office. That becomes suspicious. But just schedule time off from work, especially if you're experiencing signs of burnout. Being away from work to rejuvenate, relax, retreat is much better than staying there till you get to the critical point where you're tipping over. So time off is no sin. Go ahead and take your earned hard time and use it to your benefit. spend time with loved ones, whether folks that are blood related or folks that are just acquaintances or friends you have met. Think of the things that bring you pleasure, that make you happy, your passion, things you were doing before, like if you were playing a musical instrument. Don't put it all aside because of work. Find time, even if it's just 30 minutes in the weekend, to spend time doing that. If you like writing, take your journal out and do the writing. I love singing, so I'm a member of my choir, my church choir. So spending time with other folks and just having time to relax, it helps. The other thing I love doing is also like women empowerment events. So if there's a conference somewhere that I've been invited to, I don't go for every conference, but every once in a while, if I say it will be beneficial to me, I'll be a part of it. And basically, what you're trying to do is to keep yourself from isolation. Very, very critical for you to connect with yourself, connect with your soul, connect with your family members, connect with other people. And like being on this webinar today is some form of connection where you're not just by yourself. You're listening to me speak. Hopefully, I'll be able to hear from you too at some point. If you have any questions, feel free to put it there. But all these are critical in avoiding burnout at your place of work. So basically, that wraps up the presentation for today. I hope you've been able to learn one or two things. We talked about 6 tips for avoiding burnout at work, and a quick run through of those. Basically, defining and having a crystal clear understanding of your role at work, negotiating with your supervisory chain to see what additional benefits and accommodations can be made for you at the place of work, prioritizing your tasks and focusing on the critical items first so that you're not super overwhelmed before you get to the less critical ones, delegating duties. As someone in a supervisory position, go ahead and assign those tasks because it helps you to be more productive and to manage your time effectively. Ask for help, request assistance, make sure your leadership is aware of your workload, seek out assistance from your colleagues, seek out additional training if you don't have it, so that you're not burnt out trying to do everything that you don't know and getting stressed out. And finally, taking time off to retreat, to rest, and to relax. And this is actually very, very critical. So that basically wraps up the presentation for today. I have a poll going on, finding out if you've ever experienced burnout at work. So if you're on the call, go ahead and vote yes or no if you've ever experienced burnout at work. And at this time, I would like to open it up for discussion. Basically finding out, have you experienced burnout at work? Thanks for that response. I see someone saying yes. And in our conversation today, I would like to know what steps did you take to avoid the burnout? Which of those tips
Yeah. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Right.
There's
Very
a little background noise though.
Oh, okay. Oh, let's see. Trying to stay somewhere quiet. So yes, thank you for this discussion. Very timely, I would say, in this high-paced world we live in. I have experienced burnout before, and I was very discouraged with work, and I was stressed, and has like literally all the things you mentioned, I did experience it. So yes, I have. So what did I do? I had to take time off. I took time off to retreat pretty much and heal, and then discover my passion for my career again. Another thing I also learned that helped going back was learning to say no. Sometimes particularly if you have a personality that likes to help, or your supervisor thinks you're a strong part of the team, they tend to put more on you. And, you take it up and take it on. And it puts a lot more on even your performance. So one thing I would say is that I learned to say no when I had to, and like put my, like just stand my ground regarding additional roles that they don't necessarily, I was not necessarily required to do. So that gave me more time. I also learned to like prioritize extracurricular activities, and so I had time to like wind off work. One of that thing is I think taking work home. Many of us do it. Sometimes if you take work home, particularly if you're going through that period of burnout, you take the pressure home with you. So if you can learn to like separate work from home, it also helps. So that was my own little burnout experience. Yeah, so thank you again for sharing.
Wow, that's really awesome. Thanks for sharing. And yeah, those additional tips also help learning to say no. Although sometimes it can be challenging, especially if you're not in a supervisory position. But you can find subtle ways of saying no and just letting your supervisor know. I think this task is not suited for me at this time, or maybe it might be better suited for someone else. And yes, separating work from home, that's one thing even I am still working on, because I've shared with a couple of folks my current job assignment. It's very intense, deals with a lot of shifting priorities and being on call after hours. So sometimes it's hard to detach from the work completely. But when I do take time off, like when I'm on leave, I actually shut down my work phone, and whatever emails or messages come through, they're just going to stay there till I get back to work after my time off. So yes, definitely trying to separate that work from home or the rest of life that you have to deal with also helps. There are some folks that actually um, take a break between work and home or the rest of life. So sometimes they go to the gym to work out and vent and breathe out everything, feel refreshed. So come back, take a shower, and then just relax and enjoy the rest of their day. So those are definitely great tips. Thanks for sharing. All right, so this conversation will be available even for other folks that weren't able to join us today. It's just a challenge I've given myself to always still show up whether people are here or not. So I'm definitely glad to have you on board. And next month we'll be here again. At the end of the month, we'll be sharing that information on our social media handles, on Instagram, on Facebook. And the next topic we'll be discussing to continue to build and thrive in our careers as immigrant professional women, which is my area of concentration, even though lots of other career women and men can benefit from this topic as well. And again, I'm Dr. Bumi Akikube. I'm a lifestyle and career consultant for immigrant women. I run a platform called Thrive in the US, and you can find us on Instagram at Thrive in the US _careers, on Facebook at Thrive in the US. Website www.thriveintheus.com, where we have a blog running that has a lot of inspiring stories of how immigrant women are thriving in their careers across the US. So we hope you join us, share your story. If you need to reach out, I'm at thriveintheus@gmail.com. It's been great having you on board today, and I hope to see you next month. Have a fabulous week and keep thriving. Have a good night. Bye.